My name is Dan and I work for the London Transport Museum. I work as part of the STARS team, and STARS stands for Sustainable Travel, Active, Responsible and Safe, and it's a TfL community project that we're bringing to you today. So please enjoy our sessions. Hopefully we can check what knowledge you already have, and any knowledge you don't have, hopefully we can impart it to you today. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the first scenario, and that is by the London Transport Museum.
Hello, my name is Nicole and I work for Transport for London. In this scenario, you're going to see two major forms of transportation, and that is the bus and the tube. We're also going to be talking about active travel. So let's start with that. Active travel is a great way to get around London. It's good for your mental health and your physical health. So we can do that by walking, cycling, or scooting. What's important is that you're planning your journey. You can go onto the STARS Safer Journey Planner and figure out exactly how you're going to get around London, whether it be active or whether it be using some form of public transport. So before we get ready to go on the bus, let's first talk about how to wait safely. So for any kind of public form of transportation, whether it be train, tram, underground, any type of train, you're going to need to make sure you're a safe distance away from the pavement or platform edge. So I like to call this the golden rule. Golden rule, it works on everything. You're going to stand your height and one step back. So how tall you are and one step back. That leaves enough room for you to be away from the edge of the platform or the edge of the pavement. So if you did fall down, you'd be safe on platform or pavement without going into the road or onto the tracks. Okay, now that we have that, we're ready to go on the bus. But first, we need our zip cards. So they're really easy to apply for. You can apply a month before your 11th birthday. What you're going to do is you're going to upload a picture so we know it's yours, and it's going to have your name and your birth date on it, so no one else can use it but you. When you're on the bus, you're simply going to tap in. When you tap in, that validates your card. So if a revenue inspector comes on, they know that you've paid. It's also important to say hello to your driver. Just a quick hello, and then you're on your way, because that's your safer stranger on the bus. It's who you're going to go to if you need any kind of help when you're on the bus. So if there's a fight, if someone's vandalizing the bus, that is when you would need to get the driver involved, or you'd need to look out and be aware for numbers listed for transport police. Okay, it's also important that you don't bother the driver while they're driving. It's important to wait until they're stopped and then you can speak to them. Okay, so on the bus we've tapped in. There are lots of CCTV cameras, so if you ever did need to report an incident on the bus, they can be checked. There's up to 16 on a double-decker bus. Okay, when we're on the bus, especially now during COVID times, there's a few things that have changed. So you should be able to get a seat on the bus no matter what during COVID, because they have a capping point. So there's only a certain amount of people allowed on the bus. You also need to make sure you have your face mask, face covering, and to be even more safe, you can carry around a bottle of hand sanitizer. This way, if you touch anything while you travel, just simply clean your hands and be on your way. All right, so when we're on the bus, there's 4 places that we don't want to stand. So during COVID time, you'll have a seat, but when this is over, you're going to need to know where not to stand to be safe. So obvious spots are next to the driver. You're going to block their view if you're standing there, and you could be in the way of the mirror, so it would be hard for them to see while they're driving. Spot number 2 is by the doors. For obvious reasons, you can fall out if you're leaning on them, and also it's respectful to the people getting on and off the bus that you're not in the way. Spot number 3, can you think of it? On the stairs. They're very wobbly, so it makes sense that if we are on the stairs when the bus is moving, we need to hold on tight, get up as quickly or get down as quickly as we can without hurting ourselves. And the last spot number 4, is on the upper deck. For the same reason as the stairs, it can be very wobbly. There's also nowhere to hold on upstairs. So it's important that if you go upstairs and there's no seats, you need to go back down safely. All right, so we've talked about the bus. We know what to do in case of an emergency. So let's head on to the underground. So on the underground, you have your zip cards. You're going to need to pay to use the underground. If you don't know how to top up your card, simple. Ask a staff member. Look out for someone in a uniform and with a name tag on. Okay, they're going to be the person that you look to get that assistance. And also if you're not sure. But I know you've planned your journey and you know exactly where you're going. So once we've topped up our card and we tap in, it's also important on trains you tap out. Okay, so make sure even if there's not a barrier that you do tap out so that you've validated your trip. In order to get to the platform, you're usually going up or down the escalators. Okay, so I'm going to teach you a little rhyme about the escalators that will keep you safe while using them. It's stand on the right and hold on tight. So if you're standing on the right, it allows people on the left to go up or down without bumping into you. Holding on tight is also important because if someone has to press the emergency stop button, it's going to make sure that you are holding on and you're not going to go anywhere, so you don't have to worry about falling. In COVID times, just make sure that you have your hand sanitizer and you use it as soon as you're done touching the handrail. Okay, so stand on the right, hold on tight. We're safely at the platform. Can you remember the golden rule? Where should we wait? Our height and one step back. Sometimes you might not have enough room to do that. So you can always put your back to the wall and you're going to be as safe as possible so no one bumps into you, and it prevents you from going anywhere near the tracks. Right? There are 4 tracks down there and there is 6,000 amps of direct current. That is a deadly amount of electricity, so we want to avoid being anywhere near the tracks. Okay? So if something were to happen, like a person falls on the tracks, that is a very dangerous situation. We need to notify someone immediately. So look out for help points. Be aware, always know where they are. There's usually a few on each platform. If it's an emergency, that means someone's life is in danger and you need immediate assistance. Things like if your cell phone falls onto the tracks, this is not an emergency. It might be to you, but it's not to everyone else on the platform. So in that case, you'd press the information button. That calls staff down and they will assist you. Never attempt to go down on the tracks to retrieve any kind of property that you might have dropped. Okay? Leave it to the professionals. So we've waited safely, we're ready to get onto the train. Now, when the doors open, it's really important that you're not running on to try to catch them, right? It makes that beeping sound to let you know that the doors are closing. That doesn't mean now I'm going to start running to the doors. Because 1, it'll be very painful if you get caught in between the doors, and 2, this causes delays for the entire train, okay? So make sure you've planned your journey, you give enough time to maybe miss a train, maybe miss a bus, all right? That's going to allow you plenty of time to get onto the train and have plenty of room. Remember, during COVID time, you want to stay at least 2 meters away from those around you. Okay, the last thing about the trains is that sometimes on the underground, you have doors in between each carriage. Those are for emergency uses only. And if you're being aware, like I've taught you, you're looking out for those signs, and they're going to tell you exactly what you can and cannot do. There is a sign that says emergency doors only, do not enter. So make sure you never use those doors, unless instructed to. Okay, we're going to talk about road safety as the last part of this scenario. So road safety covers everything you're doing on the road. So walking, cycling, or scooting. Let's start with cycling. So when you're out and about, before you start your journey, check your tires that they're not deflated, and also check your brakes. It's also important that you're using the right kind of safety equipment, making sure that your helmet is securely fastened and on at all times. You're also going to make sure that you do not have headphones on, right? This can cause a major distraction. You need to be looking and listening while you are on your bike, or especially while you are scooting or while you're walking. If you are walking, please make sure that you are crossing in the correct spot. So at a crossing, and make sure you take your headphones off to have a look and a listen before you cross. The last part is that you're going to make sure you're wearing really bright clothing If you have high vis, if you have any kind of armband that's a reflector, those are great for when you're traveling around in the early morning or when it starts to get a little bit darker, especially in the winter months. So boys and girls, with these different types of techniques, you are going to be able to travel around safely, and you're going to have a great time traveling around London. See you out there.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, London Transport Museum. That's a really, really great scenario. I was taking some notes, so I've got a few questions for you, if that's okay. My first question, Nicole, is this. Is it okay to cycle with headphones in, please?
You should never cycle with headphones in. Remember, it is a big distraction. You need to be looking and listening out for other cyclists, cars, and people who might be walking in the road.
Thank you, Nicole, for clarifying that. My second question relates to active travel as well. How can active travel improve my mental health?
Active travel is great for mental health. Think about it as a warm-up before you go to school. You're warming up your brain, you're getting the blood flowing, and you're also releasing endorphins, which make you happy.
Thank you. I've got 3 questions now about the tube, the bus, and zip cards. My first question, please, is where can I apply for my zip card? And if I had brothers and sisters, could I just lend it to them?
So your zip cards can be applied for on the TfL website. Remember, it's got your picture, name, and your birth date on it, so it shouldn't be shared with anyone, even a relative.
Thank you. If I was travelling around on a bus or tube and someone was doing something bad that was sat next to me, what should I do?
If you're in an uncomfortable situation, please notify someone, a safer stranger, the bus driver, the staff manager at a station, let them know. And also, if you are on the bus and you're seated next to that person, pretend like you're getting off at the next stop and then go alert someone.
Thank you, Nicole, and thank you very much for that scenario and for answering them questions for me. Just before I put my mask back on, I'd like to introduce scenario number 2, and that is performed by the Met Police.
Hello, my name's Emily and I'm a police officer in the Safer Schools team. So I'm going to talk about this morning about knife crime and knives. I think most people have turned on the news recently or maybe been on social media or heard on the radio something about somebody carrying a weapon or a knife. And I just want you to think about that, and there's a bit of a mystery about it, and hopefully after today it won't seem such a mystery. First scenario I'm going to give you is you are allowed to walk to school on your own. You're coming towards the end of year 6 and you're walking to school one morning and you walk past the park. When you look over towards the park, you see some other kids in the park and you recognise them. They're in year 7, they used to go to your school, and you look over at them and you notice that one of them has a knife in their hand. Just stop to think about that for a moment, and I want to ask you what you should do, what you could do. My advice to you, the first thing you should do is get yourself to a safe place. It doesn't matter how brave you are, I would not expect you to go and deal with that situation yourself. So find that safe place to go. That might be across the road, behind a lamppost, sort of out of view. If you're not that far from home, you could even go back home. Once you're in a safe place, that would be the time that you need to tell somebody what you've seen and in effect call for help. So you need to tell somebody. It's a very serious situation, somebody being out in public with a knife, and you need to be brave enough to tell somebody what you've seen. If you have a mobile phone, you could ring. If you don't have a mobile phone, you could find a phone box. You could even ring 999. This is an emergency situation. So ringing 999 from a mobile, if you don't have any credit on your phone, you can still ring it. 999 is an emergency number and you can phone it regardless. If you find a phone box, you can phone that without putting any money into the phone box. So you need to tell somebody what you've seen. Then I'm going to pose to you a second scenario. This relates to you and what you might do. This second scenario would be you're on social media, some sort of social media that is actually age appropriate. You're on social media and somebody in a year 6 class in another school is threatening you. Okay, they're threatening you and they say they're going to see you after school. and you are worried that you're going to be attacked. Will you just take a moment to think about what you're going to do in that situation? Hopefully, the first thought you're going to have is about telling somebody what's happened. This is going back to thinking about telling what's happened, and maybe having a think about the trusted adults that you would tell in difficult situations. So I'd like to think the first thing you're thinking about now is what you're going to do, who you're going to tell. The second question that might throw up, and the second thing you might be thinking about right now, is can I take out some kind of weapon to protect myself? Can I do that for self-protection? Another question I've just posed to you. I'm going to come on now to the law around that, and the first thing to say is nobody can carry a weapon for their protection. It is a criminal offence for people to take bladed articles, sharply pointed articles out into a public place. So if you're at home in the kitchen and you're making a cheese sandwich, you're cutting up your bread, your cheese, you have a knife, that's for that purpose. The minute that a knife like that is taken out into a public place, an offence has been committed. So you need to think about that. It doesn't matter that people feel threatened, they're still not allowed to carry a weapon for their own self-protection. Thinking a bit more about the law around weapons and knife carrying, etc. There are two things to bear in mind here. The first thing is reasonable excuse. So with a reasonable excuse, that might be a situation whereby somebody, their job is a carpet fitter, and they're out during the day, they need all the equipment they have to fit carpets. So they might have a van, the knife to cut the carpets, and all the equipment that they need. Now, if they were stopped by the police and found to be in possession of a knife, which would be what I think would be a Stanley knife, they would have a reasonable excuse, okay? That's their job. They could prove it. They would have to prove it, and unlikely that they're going to be dealt with any further by the police. Think about that situation, and that same person who is a carpet fitter and that's their job, out at midnight, they don't have any of their equipment with them, and they're not actually carpet fitting at the time. Would that be an offence? More than likely they're going to get arrested in that situation, unless they can prove a very good reason as to why they would have a weapon on them, a knife on them at that time of the night, and it's not for their job. Hopefully that has cleared up a little bit what I said at the beginning about the mystery around this, and I thank you for listening.
Emily, Met Police, that was a brilliant scenario. Thank you very, very much. I have a couple of questions, if that's okay, that I've noted down from watching your scenario just now. My first question, please, Emily. What happens to young people when they have been arrested for carrying a knife/weapon?
The first thing I would say is it goes the same for every person who's been arrested. They get interviewed at the police station, all the evidence is gathered, and then a decision is made on how to deal with them. Knife crime is dealt with very, very harshly, and it can affect people's career choices, travel, etc.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you for the answer to that question. That's good to know. My second question, please. What should I do if I find the knife on the ground while I'm out playing, like at the playground or by a bin, etc.?
So if you find a knife when you're out and about, please do not pick it up. Do not touch it. Make a note of as much information as you can about what it looked like, where it was, and time of day, stuff like that. If you have a phone, you can take a photo of it. But please tell your trusted adult, they can tell the police. Do not touch it. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you for your scenario. That was really, really good. We're going to move on to scenario 3 now. And scenario 3 is performed by the London Ambulance Service.
Hello everyone, welcome to my session. My name is Emma and I am a paramedic with the London Ambulance Service. So this afternoon we are going to learn some very important first aid. It's going to be very simple, but it's also very important. Now, before we start, I want to make sure that I don't use any words that perhaps you're not familiar with. So I'm going to use the word unconscious. Now, I hope you all maybe know what that word means. Let's just make sure before we start. So unconscious means when somebody is in like a really big, deep sleep. When you're unconscious, somebody can't wake you up. You can't respond to somebody, you can't open your eyes, you can't really interact with somebody because it's like being in a really deep sleep. So I'm going to use that word later on, and then you'll all know what that means. So I said we were going to learn some first aid, and what we're going to do is we're going to learn what these letters stand for that stand behind me. So each letter stands for something in this first aid session we're going to learn. So the first letter is D. Now D stands for danger. It's the most important part of this scenario because unless we check for danger and unless we make sure we're safe, then we could end up getting hurt ourselves. So before we rush in to help somebody, we are always going to check for danger. Now, I've got a pretend person on the floor down here, and I'm going to show you what I do when I approach this person using the system that we've got here. Now, sometimes this is called Dr. ABC, because the DR stands for doctor, it's the abbreviation for doctor, and then the letters ABC. So using these letters, we're going to find out how we can help this person who is maybe sick or injured on the floor. So, D, we've checked for danger. The next thing we're going to do begins with an R. And that is to check for a response. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shout and I'm going to see if I can get a response from this person. So I'm going to shout and I'm going to say, hello, hello, can you hear me? Now they're not responding to me, so I'm going to go a bit closer. Now this time I'm going to shout in their ear because maybe they're deaf, maybe they just couldn't hear me. So I'm going to say, hello, 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 can you hear me? Now I'm not getting a response, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I give them a shake and see if that wakes them up. So I'm going to say, hello, can you hear me? Now I'm not getting a response, so I'm going to move on to the next stage, which is the letter A. Now A stands for airway. I hope you all know what an airway is, but let's just have a little refresher. So an airway is the hole that we breathe through here, and it's the tube that joins your lungs down here. All of this bit here is called our airway, and it allows us to breathe easily. So let's just do a little trial run. Let's just see what happens if everybody puts their chin down here on your chest, and then see if you can take a breath while your chin is down here. Now that's actually really hard to do. But if we put our chin up here, and then we take a nice big breath like that, it's really easy to breathe. And that's because by doing this, we've opened up our airway. So this person here is unconscious, they're not responding to me, so I'm going to have to open their airway for them because they can't move their head. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm moving to letter A, that's the airway, and I'm going to open their airway just by moving their head like this. So by doing that, what I did was I put my hand on their forehead, I put my fingers under their chin, and I just moved their head back like that. Now thinking about their airway, the other thing I might do is I might just have a quick look just to see if there's anything obvious that's blocking that airway. But I'm not going to start putting my fingers in their mouth and having a dig around. We don't do that. We're just going to see if there's anything obvious there at the front of their mouth, in which case we might just take that away. Otherwise, we've just kept their airway open. Now, the next bit that I'm going to do begins with the letter B, and that is to check if this person is breathing. So, with their airway open, I'm going to use all of my senses to find out if they're breathing. So that means I'm going to look, I'm going to listen, and I'm also going to feel to be absolutely confident whether or not this person is breathing. So I've got their airway open, and I'm going to put my head in this position because by doing so, my ear is near their mouth so I can hear if there's any breathing. I can also look down their chest so I can see if they're breathing. And also, with my spare hand, I can feel on their chest to see if that chest is going up and down, so I'm feeling if they're breathing. So I'm going to do that for 10 seconds. So 7, 8, 9, 10. And I've used all of my senses to be very sure. And I can tell that in this occasion, this person was breathing. So I checked for 10 seconds so that I was sure. Now, this is a medical emergency because this person here is not responding to me. We know that they're breathing, but this is very serious because this person now needs some help and they need an ambulance. So that's when we get to the letter C. So C stands for call. And you all know the number, I'm sure. It's 999 for an emergency. So we're going to call 999. And just as a little refresher, let's all remember what happens when you call 999. So you dial the number, and the first thing that happens is an operator comes on the line. And they're going to say to you, which service would you like? Would you like the police, the fire, or the ambulance? Now, in this occasion, we need an ambulance, don't we? We need an ambulance. So we'll say, I'd like to have an ambulance, please. At that point, they're going to put you through to the ambulance service. Now, when they answer the phone, the first question they're going to ask you is the person breathing? And guess what? We know the answer to that one because we did some really careful checking using all of our senses. So we can say to them, yes, this person's breathing, but we definitely need an ambulance, please. Now, after that, they're going to ask you some more questions. They'll need to know your address and lots of other things. So the best thing we can probably do at that point is we'll put our phone onto hands-free, and we can put it down here next to us. And then we've got our hands free to do any more things that maybe they're going to ask on the phone. Or we could also just give that person a little bit of reassurance and say, don't worry, you're going to be fine. I'm calling for an ambulance. It's on its way. Because possibly they can hear what's happening. So we're just going to give them a little bit of reassurance. Maybe we're going to keep them warm if they're outside. We might put a blanket on the top. And we're just going to watch them and keep a close eye in case anything changes. So that was what we did using Dr. ABC to help somebody, but I'm just going to recap all of that in real time just to make absolutely sure that everybody there was listening. So let's run through it one more time. So do you remember, first of all, D, we're going to check for danger. Is it safe for me to approach this person? I want to be absolutely sure that I'm not going to get hurt. So D, we check for danger. Hello, hello, I'm going to get a response. Hello, can you hear me? Hello, 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 can you hear me? They're not responding, so I'm going to open their airway, and then I'm going to check, are they breathing? 7, 8, 9, 10. They are breathing, so I'm going to call for an ambulance, 999. Thank you all very much. I hope you all learned something from me there today, and I really appreciate you all listening. Thank you.
Emma, that was really great. Thank you very much. I've taken some notes and I've got a couple of quick questions. My first question, please, Emma, is what's the first thing you should do before you decide to help someone?
Well, I very much hope that you can all remember the answer to that one, because it really is the most important thing that we learned in my session, and that began with a D, and it was to check for danger.
Thank you. My second question is, how can we tell if someone is breathing?
Okay, so again, I hope you were all listening in my session there. Do you remember we used all of our senses? So we looked, and we listened, and we felt to tell if somebody was breathing.
Thank you very much, Emma. I really appreciate you being here today. That was a brilliant scenario. We're going to move on to scenario number 4 now, please, and that is by the London Fire Brigade.
Hello everybody, my name is Cable and I work for the London Fire Brigade. Today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about keeping safe from fire. So we're going to be talking about fire safety. Now, I just want to show you a smoke alarm. These are very, very important, okay? A smoke alarm gives you early warning, which means you've got plenty of time to leave your property and call 999. Now, smoke alarms, you can buy them from major supermarkets. You can also get them from the DIY shops. The average price of a smoke alarm starts anything from £5 to £10. To test a smoke alarm, okay, all we need to do is push this button. As soon as you push it, it's going to make a noise. As soon as you let go, it will stop. Now, we need to be doing this at least once a month. Get your grown-ups to help you. Now, we should have smoke alarms on every level of our property. So if you live in a property with 2 levels, you need 1, 2. Now that's minimum. But we also recommend to have smoke alarms in the rooms where there possibly could be a fire. So for example, bedrooms. We have lots of electrical equipment in there, which sometimes we forget to turn off. Also, if you're not aware of this, that when we do fall asleep, our sense of smell shuts down, but your sense of hearing stays awake. So we'll hear the alarm, have early warning, and be able to get outside. Now, if you can't hear because you wear hearing aids, then you can get a specialist smoke alarm. Them alarms comes with a vibrating pad, and that pad will live underneath the pillowcase. And what it does is when it detects smoke, the pad starts to vibrate. So the person will feel the vibration, wake up, and get outside. Now, you can have heat alarms. They're designed for the kitchen, all right? And these are normal standard smoke alarms. Inside here is a battery. Now, it all depends on what type of smoke alarm you have. Sometimes they might last 1 year, sometimes they might last 5 years, or they might last 10 years, all right? What happens is a smoke alarm will start to beep every 30 seconds, and that's basically telling you that the battery is running low. That is the only time your family, all right, should ever take the battery out, is when they're replacing a new one. Now, we're going to watch a video now on about escape. Now, if you need any more information regarding fire safety in the home, please do a search, London Fire Brigade. There is lots and lots of information on there about fire prevention, about fire detection and escape, and about smoke alarms.
Hello, my name's Ruthie. I work for the London Fire Brigade. I'm one of the education officers. We teach children all over London how to keep safe from fire in their home. The best way to approach fire safety in the home is to not have a fire at all. That's called prevention. One of my friends in another video will teach you all about how to remove the chance of having a fire or making the risk really small. Today, we're going to think about escape. So, if there was a fire in your home, how should you and the people that you live with get out of the home safely? Thinking about a plan and practicing escape is really important, and it should be practiced with your family now while there's no emergency. That way, if a fire did happen in the future, everyone knows what to do, they can stay calm, and they know how to get out of the house quickly. Usually, the way to get out of a house is the way you came in. There are 3 key parts to escape. 1, get out. 2, stay out. And 3, call 999. Okay, here is a boy. Let's call him Josh, asleep in his bed, snoring away. Suddenly, he opens his eyes. Why did he wake up? That's correct. The smoke alarm has started to sound. This is a great reminder of how important it is to have working smoke alarms around your home. 1 on every level, tested by an adult, about once a month. Having a working smoke alarm will give that warning to alert you that a fire has started. It is really important and is covered in another session called Detection. That session will also tell you about different alarms available for people who are deaf or hearing impaired, so that they would be alerted to a fire too. Once Josh woke up, what should he shout? Well done. Fire! Fire! This will warn all the people you live with that something isn't right. If you hear someone shouting help or screaming, you know something's wrong, but you don't know what. If you hear fire, you know to call 999, ask for the fire brigade, and get the help that's needed. So, back to Josh. If it is smoky in the room, then we know that smoke rises, it goes up towards the ceiling, so a safer place for Josh is to crawl on the floor where he can breathe cleaner air, heading towards his bedroom door. At night time, when everyone goes to bed, adults should close all the doors at home. Hopefully it never will, but if a fire did break out, having doors closed will really slow down how quickly the fire spreads, giving longer for the people to get out safely. Any closed door will provide at least 20 minutes protection against a fire spreading. If a door says it's a fire door, that will give you around an hour's protection. Which part of his hand should Josh use to check the door? Correct. The back of his hand. This lets us check if the door is hot or if the door is cold. If the door is hot, should you open it? No, definitely not. The fire might be on the other side. You need to get something soft and thick, like a dressing gown or a pillow or a blanket or school uniform, and make a sausage shape and block the gap. That way the smoke can't come in. Don't use something large like a mattress to block the gap, because that will stop the firefighters being able to come in. So then you'd go quickly to a window, open it and keep yelling, "Fire! Fire!" A neighbour or passerby will hear you and call 999. Here you can see Chloe. She couldn't go out of her door, so here she is at the open window shouting. Stay by the window with your head out, breathing the fresh air until the fire brigade arrive to help you. Keep shouting fire and attracting attention. Do not jump unless you're on the ground floor and can easily step out onto the ground. The fire brigade will get a fire engine to come to you within 6 minutes of calling 999, so wait at the window for the firefighters to come. Let's get back to Josh at his door. The door, when he checks it, is cold or normal. So he can open it, but be careful. Open a little bit and peek out to check it's safe. Then go out and close the door behind you. Remember, closed doors means a fire will spread less quickly. If it's smoky, get or stay low down, crawling. Keep shouting, "Fire!" so other family members are alerted and crawl out of their doors and close the doors behind them. Head towards the front door. If you have stairs, it's safest to bump down them sitting on your bottom. Get to the front door, check that door too with the back of your hand. If it's cold, get out and call 999. What if no one has a phone? Could you run back inside and grab a mobile phone from the kitchen? Definitely not. Get out, stay out and call 999. Never go back inside until the firefighters tell you it's safe. If you don't have a phone with you, ask a neighbour or passerby for help and call 999. Then wait for the fire brigade to arrive. If there is a person or even an animal still inside, then you and your family members are the best people to help tell the firefighters where they are, how to get to them. They've never been in your home before. Don't you go inside, it's very dangerous. If you live in a block of flats and need to evacuate because of a fire, it's the same. Check the door with the back of your hand. If it's cold, go through, closing it behind you. Go forwards and check the next door. When you reach the shed or the communal area, should you take the lift or the stairs? Brilliant. Always take the stairs to get out in an emergency, never the lift. Remember, get out, stay out and call 999. So, that's escape. I don't want you getting stressed or upset or panicking there's going to be fires wherever you go today. This is all just in case. Remember, the most important and safest thing that your adults can do is to remove the risks from your home and prevent a fire from happening in the first place. But accidents can happen, and having a working smoke alarm like this one will give you just enough warning to get out quickly. Discussing and practicing a plan for escape will mean that if a fire did happen, you and the people you live with can quickly and calmly get out, stay out and call 999. So, challenge time. Why don't you and the people you live with sit down and talk about having a plan for your home? Draw it out and then you can practice exactly what to do if there was a fire. And if things change, you can always update it. Thanks for watching. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you to Cable and thank you to Ruthie at London Fire Brigade. That was a brilliant presentation, so thank you for that. Like the other presentations, scenarios, I've written a few notes down, so I have a couple of questions for you now. My first question, Cable, please, is why do we have to crawl under the smoke?
The reason why we have to crawl underneath the smoke is because smoke is very, very dangerous. It's very, very poisonous. Okay, it's toxic. This is why we have smoke lamps on the ceiling, because smoke goes up. Okay, so if the smoke goes up, we have to be underneath it so we can breathe clean, fresh air.
Thank you, Cable. Thank you for that answer. I've always wondered the answer to that question. Question 2 is, what do I do if I don't have a door, like on the kitchen or my bedroom or something like that? Because some people take the doors off. Would that be safe to do so?
My advice for that question would be, if you don't have a door, is basically make sure that you switch everything off. Get yourself in a bedtime routine. Whatever can be switched off, switch it off. If it's designed to be left on, then that's fine. So have a bedtime routine. Go into the kitchen, make sure everything is switched off. If you have a door, close it. If you don't, everything is switched off, so there's no ignition, there's not even going to be a fire. Go into the living room, make sure everything is switched off, close the living room door. Make sure there's a nice clear path from the front door and the back door going all up into your bedrooms so you can get out quickly and you can get out safely in the middle of the night. Also, because you've got one of these, a smoke alarm, it's going to give you early warning, so you've got plenty of time to get outside and call 999.
Thank you, Cable. That's a brilliant answer as well. Similar sort of question to my previous question. What to do if I cannot open my window?
Yeah, good question. Now again, if you've got a working smoke alarm in your property, and the only way you're going to know if it works is if you test it once a month by pushing the test button, again, you're going to get early warning. Now, when my children were little, I did give them a key for the bedroom window, but what I used to do is I used to sellotape it underneath their bedside cabinet. So in an emergency, if they ever needed to open the window and start shouting out fire, okay, they knew where the key was. But as long as you've got working smoke alarms in your property, you have got enough time to get out. Go onto our website address, London Fire Brigade. Go onto a search engine. There is lots and lots of information on there about preventing fire, detection and escape, and lots of information about smoke alarms.
Thank you, Cable. Thank you, London Fire Brigade. That was a brilliant scenario. Thank you very, very much. We're going to move on to the final scenario now. I'm going to introduce Kay from the Blue Cross.
Hello, my name is Kay, and today I'll be joined by my colleague Paul. We work for a charity called the Blue Cross. The Blue Cross have been around for over 100 years, and during that time, all we've wanted to do is to help pets. We do that by finding homes for pets that haven't got homes, and treating people's pets that are sick or injured in our animal hospitals. Pets play such an important part in all of our lives, but regardless of what pet you have, today we are just going to be talking about dogs. Dogs really are amazing. They're so amazing, they even have jobs that can help us. The police use dogs, farmers use dogs. We have guide dogs to help people who are visually impaired, and there are even medical detection dogs that can sniff out different diseases in us. But we can only carry on having this amazing relationship with dogs if we know how to behave appropriately around them, to keep ourselves safe and keep the dogs happy. The last few months haven't just been a big change for us. It's been a big change for our pets too. They have you in the home with them much more than they would have done before. And whilst that can be really exciting for some dogs, for other dogs this might not be such a welcome change. Your pet's routine has changed, and they've been used to having periods of time without you, and they still need to be given time to chill out away from everyone if they want it. You can do that by separating them for short periods of time with the use of safety gates and giving them their favourite toys or a nice tasty treat. Dogs actually need more sleep than we do. Who knows how many hours a day on average a dog needs to sleep for? If you think you know the answer, put your hand up, and teachers only choose someone who's not calling out. I'm sure there were some great guesses there, but the answer is between 12 and 16 hours a day. So if your dog is sleeping, just leave it alone and do something else. And there's a handy rhyme to help you remember. So if the dog's asleep in bed, play with toys instead. I just want you to imagine for a second that you're sitting down with a bag of your favourite sweets, and that someone comes and sits next to you and tries to take one. That's not going to make you feel nice at all. And actually, for a dog, if you're going near a dog when it's eating its food, that could really upset that dog. So I've got a handy rhyme to help you remember. If a dog is eating and enjoying his food, disturbing him is rude. So please leave dogs alone when they're eating. I'm fairly sure if you were playing your favourite console and someone come up to you and took your controller away, that wouldn't make you happy at all. And dogs wouldn't like their toys being taken away from them either. So if a dog has a toy, leave them to enjoy. If a dog is hiding away somewhere, this could be a sign that your dog is really worried about something. I know if I get really worried about something, actually what I really like to do is curl up in my bed and put my covers all over me. And I quite like to hide away sometimes too. But if your dog is feeling worried and is hiding away, it's really important that you give your dog time away from everyone just to chill out. So if a dog hides away, keep back and obey. I know if I'm feeling a little bit poorly, I don't really want to talk to people. I don't really want people trying to do things for me. And I sort of just want to be left alone. And that can be the same for some dogs as well. So if a dog is sick or hurt, stay alert, which means keep an eye on your dog to make sure that your dog isn't so poorly that it needs to go to the vet, but actually just give it the space it needs to recover and get better in peace. If someone come up to me and pounced on me from behind or made a really loud noise, I might get really scared. Dogs can get scared by loud noises as well. So quiet and slow is the way to go. I'm now going to hand you over to my colleague Paul, who's going to tell you more exciting things about how to keep yourself safe around dogs.
Thanks, Kay. Communication we're going to look at now, everybody. We're going to look at how to speak dog, but before we do that, let's think about how we communicate. We can shout, we can point, we can smile, we can move our body. That actually helps us to communicate to that other person, our parents, our teachers, our friends. So let's have a bit of a practice of that, but without using our mouths. We're just going to move our bodies. So I'd like you to turn to the person next to you and show them that you've had a big fright. Okay, so this is my best fright face. Now I know you can do better. So show the person your best fright face. Fantastic, saw some brilliant fright faces there. How about a smile? Show them that you're happy, you're smiling. Now I know you might think, I don't want to do that. So to encourage you, I'm going to tell you the world's worst joke. Why did the teacher wear sunglasses? Because her pupils were so bright. Hopefully that made you smile. So there, you used your body and your expressions to communicate with somebody else. Now, our dogs use their bodies too, and we're going to have a quick look at different ways in which they communicate with us. So, this dog is a little bit upset, maybe a little bit afraid of me. He's the kind of dog that if I walked in the room, he would try and hide under a table or under a chair. You can see his ears are going really flat back towards his head. He's showing me his teeth. If we had sound, he would be making a growling noise. His tail's tucked under his body. And I'd say he's a bit scared of me. He doesn't want me to come any closer. How about this dog here? I would say that he's a bit uncertain about me, a bit unsure. If I came in the room, he would stay still. He would bow his head. He's lifting a paw up, you might notice. And also, if you look very carefully, he's kind of licking his lips. And these are all kinds of behaviour that the dog would use if he was a bit uncertain about something. So he would be meaning, please leave me alone. I'm not sure about you quite yet. Now, I know when you get home from school, you probably see your dogs looking a bit more like this. Now, he's showing me by, well, a few different things actually. His tongue is nice and relaxed on the bottom of his jaw. His body might be wiggling, his tail's kind of wagging gently. His ears are going up and forward. And I'm thinking definitely those are signs that he's feeling a bit more relaxed.
Thanks for that, Paul. That was great. In the next few months, most of you will start travelling independently to and from secondary school by yourselves. So it's really important that you know what to do if a dog you don't know approaches you. Now, for some of you, if a dog you don't know runs up to you, it can be a really frightening experience. But I need you to know that actually if a dog's running up to you, it's more than likely really curious, just want to see what you're about, or just wants to play. However, if you're really scared, or if you're really not scared at all, the advice is still going to be the same. So we want that dog to leave us alone. And the best way to do that is to be as boring as possible. So what we're going to do, we're going to drop anything that's in your hand, because it could be that, especially if you've got food in your hand, that's what the dog's interested in. So you're going to drop anything in your hand and you're going to stand still and chill. So literally be as boring as possible. And we're going to chill out by keeping our body language nice and relaxed. We're just going to fold our arms in front of us. Now, if I was being boring and ignoring someone, one of the ways that I might do that is that I wouldn't look at them. So we're going to stand still, we're going to chill out, fold our arms, and we're just going to look away. And that makes you come across really boring. But some dogs don't get that message as quickly as others. And the dog still might be harassing you and still want to play and could even jump up and knock you over. If that happens, it's really important to protect your body and to protect the vulnerable spots of your body especially. So we do that by becoming as still as a stone. Now think of a stone and think how boring that is. So it's still and it's quiet and it's not doing anything at all. And it's really small and wrapped up. And that's what we're going to do with our bodies. So on the floor, we would put our knees in front of our tummies. We would put our chins on our chests. And we're going to cover our heads with our hands, but tucking our fingers in at the same time. So we are literally pretending to be a stone. And that's a really good way to be boring, so a dog doesn't want to bother us. It's amazing, and you've all listened absolutely beautifully, so thank you. And now's the opportunity to ask any questions. Now, whilst I can't answer everybody's questions, I have already taken questions from 2 other students which have asked our most popular questions. So these are questions that we are asked the most often.
K. Can dogs sense fear?
What a great question. So can dogs smell fear? Now, dogs do have incredible noses, as we've already talked a little bit about earlier on. However, what a dog is going to be most interested in is how you're behaving. So someone who's frightened is more likely to scream or run or make lots of erratic movements. And that's really interesting for a dog. And they're going to more likely to approach you because they're curious and want to understand, oh, what's going on? You're acting a bit strangely. And they just want to see. So the best way, again, to avoid a dog coming up to you if you don't want it, is to stand still and chill. Just be relaxed and be calm. A dog's going to be much more interested in sort of fearful body language than it is with a smell.
Is it okay to cuddle my dog?
Oh, another really good question. So, is it okay for me to cuddle my dog? Now, look at it from a dog's perspective. Actually, you could have someone going up to them, pinning them down, putting their face next to their face. And actually, that might not be very welcome for a lot of dogs. So my advice would be, don't cuddle your dog. But there are lots of ways that you can still show your dog how much you love it. So playing good games with your dog, nice tasty treats, and that's a really good way to show your dog how much you care. Thank you so much for listening as well as you all have. It's really important that we can continue to have this amazing relationship with dogs by knowing how to behave appropriately around them and keeping ourselves safe. If you want to read more or know more about keeping yourself safe around dogs, you can find more information on our website at www.bluecross.org.uk. Thank you.
The Blue Cross scenario concludes all the scenario sessions for today. So that just leaves me to say some thank yous. My first thank you is to you, the viewer, the student viewer. Thank you very much for tuning in. We hope you found these sessions useful and informative and you can take something away from them. So that is the final thing I have to say, apart from be safe Year 6 and enjoy senior school when it comes.
you.